All right. Welcome back to another live episode of Investors Playbook. As always, you have your co-hosts, Deshaun and Cornell, and we really want to talk about a serious subject because it's getting tough out there, people. Right? A lot of changes happening with the economy, as always, but with the recent uh, tariffs that we've been hearing a lot about, there's a potential that it will greatly affect the way we are paying for items, how much we're paying for items. Um, so, what we really want to do is just talk about some other ways that you can make money, right? A lot of people only have one stream of income, which, as we've seen, can sometimes be risky. We've seen waves of layoffs, and anything can happen, right? You can get sick, you can fall ill, you can have it to where you can't, or you're unable to actually go into work. So yeah, we want to just bring up some passive income ideas that either me or Cornell have actually done. Yeah, and just give you guys some game. Sound like a plan, Cornell?
Oh yeah, let's get it, man.
All right. So the first one we want to talk about is one that we both have experience with. That is writing a book. Okay. If you are a creative, if you have a skill, if you have an idea that needs to be put on paper, write it down. Someone can learn from it. All right. You want to put your ideas on paper. You can use KDP, Amazon to self publish. All this can be done for relatively cheap. All right. We want to just stress the importance of people putting their ideas on paper so that other individuals can learn from them. Everybody has a skill, everybody has an idea, everybody has something that they're good at. So don't think that ebooks are, or the idea of books are oversaturated, or there are too many books. Nah, there's always a book that can be written, and there's always something that you can teach someone else. So if you are a creative person and you have some skill, put it on paper. Put it on paper. Put it on KDP, self-publish it. Or if you want to go the other route, getting an actual publishing company, you could do that too. But definitely a very passive way to receive royalties is to write a book, write it down. Okay. So that's going to be my first one. What about you, Cornell?
And I just want to make sure that while we're speaking on the book, and I know that you said this is actually something that we've done, make sure
Hmm.
you all go to Amazon and purchase the Investors Playbook, and yeah, get you started.
That's it.
For sure,
We
for
actually
sure.
we actually got a book out there. We did the thing that I'm saying. We wrote a book. So, all right, Cornell, hit him with the next one, bro.
All right, so the next one, this is something that we've both done also. This is also available on our website, but drop shipping. So
Hmm.
if you're creative, what you can do is you can create a design and you can use websites like Printify, where you can place your designs on clothing, items like mugs, things of that nature. And when you put your design on Printify, you can link it to a website, and when people go onto that website, if they purchase that, you get a percentage of whatever you get of the profits. Of course, Printify is going to take most of it, but you don't have to do any of the creating. You don't have to sit there and press the shirts or the hoodies or whatever you have. They do all the work. They send it straight to the customer. Your hands off, and you get a percentage of that. And that's what's so beautiful about drop shipping.
Hmm. Definitely. And I'll even tap in and say, along with drop shipping and being creative and just creating designs that you can print on anything, I'll also add that you can do the same thing with websites like Etsy. You can put creative PDFs or creative Excel spreadsheets and sell them to different people, right? We've made planners, we've made debt reduction Excel spreadsheets with formulas that can help people, knock out their credit card debt. We've created investment, well, not investment, we've created financial independence workbooks. And all these, just like with drop shipping, you can sell digital products online, not just the physical one. So that is another very passive way. You create it one time and then it's good to go. All right. So that I think is a very super passive way for sure. Um, my second one is going to be a bit more hands-on. It's not extremely passive, but if you set it up correctly, it can be. All right. Talking about real estate. We talk about real estate quite a bit, and there are a lot of ways you can slice this real estate cake. Okay. You could be a owner. You can own real estate property. You can have that real estate be a rental property, which means someone else can live in the unit that you own and will pay you rent that you then pay the mortgage. You have to make sure, this is very important. You have to make sure the numbers make sense. Okay. If someone is paying you 1,500, but your mortgage is $2,000, you're losing money. It doesn't make sense. What you want to do is make sure that when you purchase the property, you do your due diligence. You're making sure that you understand the rental value or the potential rental you can get. You want to make sure that when you are purchasing, that you get a reasonable um, purchase price with a interest rate that's not going to hurt you too much. Because again, you are going to be paying the mortgage on this property. What you need to do is find a property where the rental income in that area is more than what you will be paying on the mortgage. But what you can control is how much you pay every month. And that'll go into you finding a rental property at a price that you can afford with a interest rate that makes sense. Right now, interest rates are a bit high. So it's harder for people to purchase homes right now. And if that's the case, and if you are renting a place, let's say you're renting a 3 bedroom and you're the only one there, you can still get rental income by doing what they call subleasing. You have to have this conversation with the landlord, of course. You don't want to break your lease or do something that your lease doesn't allow. But if you have that conversation with your landlord and they say it's okay for you to sublease, then you could be making potential income by leasing out a room that you're staying, a room of a house that you're staying in. Okay. And that is another way that you can make real estate be a passive income opportunity. The room is already there, it exists. All you're doing is allowing someone to stay in your space and they're paying you to assist you with your rent, which can bring down the cost of your rent on a monthly basis, or they can pay the utilities, whatever the case may be. So you don't have to be a home owner to benefit from renting or gaining money from rental property. You can be a renter and sublease a property. But again, have the conversation with your landlord. Do not just bring someone in your property. You have the potential of breaking your lease and anything, bad things can happen from that. So if you are going the sublease route, make sure you talk to your landlord about it. So
And
that's
one
gonna
thing
oh go ahead.
one thing that people don't think about when they own real estate is that they're also passively building wealth, all right? Because you're building equity every time you make that mortgage payment that you're going to do anyway, right? Because you have to keep your home. Opposed to if you were paying rent, you don't get anything. But yeah, if you're paying your mortgage, you're building equity in that home, right?
Absolutely.
And then once you have enough equity, you can actually tap into it to make other investments or do other things. I don't really recommend that, but you can definitely use the equity within the home to make more investment opportunities.
Hmm.
So yeah, so good stuff on real estate. So, but I also want to talk about high yield savings account. This is one of the most passive things that you can ever do, right? Because there's no risk involved. Yeah, the interest rate can fluctuate depending on, like, the Federal Reserve and things of that nature. But you can't lose money in a savings account, which
Hmm.
is most important. So they do have savings accounts that don't really grant you much. Like if you're putting your money into like a Wells Fargo savings account that has like a 0.01 interest rate, right? So you want to make sure that you're looking at the interest rate and that you're getting the best bang for your buck. So make sure you compare different banks, right? So of course, depending on how much money you put in there determines how much you get out because it's percentage based. But this is one of the most passive things that you can do in order to make money.
Yeah, definitely. Like savings accounts are one of the first things we learn growing up, right? Put your money in a savings account. Put your money in a savings account. Now they have high yield savings accounts. So you're not putting your money in something that's growing at a snail pace. It's growing at a decent amount. There are other forms of investing, of course, that grow faster, but those higher interest or those higher forms of investing that can grow your money faster also include risks that a high yield savings account does not have, right? Along with high yield savings accounts, they also have certificates of deposit, which is you putting your money or purchasing a CD is what they call. and you being guaranteed a specific rate of return after a certain amount of time. Okay. So that is another thing you can research more on CDs, and they have just like banks have different interest rates. CDs also have different time lengths, different terms, different rates of return. So, but another very passive and pretty safe way, right? A certificate of deposit, you give your money, a year passes, 5 year passes, you get a specific amount of money back, and that's the transaction. There's not much else to it, right? Little risk. Um, the next thing I want to talk about is dividend stocks. So, dividend stocks are interesting. Um, a lot of people talk about how you can replace your income with dividend stocks because dividend stocks can pay you sometimes on a monthly basis, on a um, like a quarterly basis, on a yearly basis. But the thing with dividend stocks is sometimes it doesn't make sense to purchase and solely make money off of dividend stocks if the stock itself is not growing. So with dividend stocks, the risk there is making sure that you're choosing stocks that will actually continue to grow and pay you dividends. And I realized I didn't even talk about what a dividend is exactly. So, a dividend is basically money that the company gives its shareholders as a way to say thank you for owning their stock. That's literally what a dividend is. So, if you hold a certain number of shares of Apple, then on a regular timeline, Apple will pay you money for holding Apple stock. And there's a lot of stocks that do that. Apple is one, Ford is another, and there are a number of different stocks. But again, I will repeat, you have to make sure that it makes sense. Look at not just the amount of money you get or the dividend yield, is what they call it. Also, look at the track record of the stock. How well is the stock performing? Because if you're holding dividends or if you're holding shares of a company and you're getting paid dividends, but in the last 5 years, you've lost 25% of the money that you put in, it doesn't make sense. So the risk with dividend stocks is the fact that they are single stocks. Okay. And with stocks, you can lose money. Yes, you might be getting the dividend on a regular basis, but if your money is going down because the stock is not performing, then it doesn't make sense. So I will say that is a passive way that you can potentially make money, but please do your research on the stock that you choose if you are going to do dividend investing or if you're going to make dividends a part of your normal income. Just research the stock, make sure that it makes sense because without the research, you could just be losing money even though you're getting paid the dividend. So just wanted to throw that one out there too. I know
Yeah.
Cornell, you got some stuff to say about dividend stocks, so I'm gonna let you go ahead.
I think you told people both sides of it pretty accurately, but I do want to add that an effective way to utilize a dividend is to reinvest it,
Hmm.
right? So this every time you get a dividend and you reinvest it, you're going to get more of a dividend the next time because you have more shares of that company. But unlike growth stocks that give you unrealized gains, dividend stocks give you realized gains. So make sure that you know that even if you're reinvesting these dividends, you're going to have to pay taxes on whatever gains that you get that year.
Hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Cool.
Yep.
I like it.
So, yep. So the next thing that I wanted to bring up are mutual funds. These are where we essentially started with our Roth IRAs. This is what I feel like this is the foundation before you start breaking into like single stocks and things of that nature, because typically mutual funds are safer. And the reason is because it's an already diversified portfolio within one unit, right?
Mhm.
So when you buy a mutual fund, say you buy a blue chip mutual fund or a mutual fund that follows the S&P 500, it's already being managed because as you might know, the S&P 500 isn't just a set 500 stocks. As stocks get better, they rotate out. You see what I'm saying? So it's already being managed. So this takes the pressure off of you. This takes all the work off of you on researching stocks and things of that nature. Yes, I would check it maybe quarterly to make sure that it's still going in the direction that you wanted to, but it's really hands off and it's passive. And historically, if you're invested in anything like the S&P 500 or QQQ, you're almost at an all-time high right now. Every crash that has happened is recovered. So, based on history, is one of your safer options.
Yeah, I will double down on that. Just like how Cornell said, this is how we started learning about, investing is understand well in our retirement accounts is understanding the power of mutual funds. And I remember us starting with the mutual fund or it wasn't a mutual fund. Well, I guess it was the target date fund.
Yep.
Trash. So as Cornell said, and as we're saying continuously throughout the video, you got to make sure that you research everything we're telling you. Okay. Because there are good mutual funds, there are okay mutual funds, and then there are bad mutual funds, like mutual funds that literally just don't go up and even go down. So you want to make sure that you're not just putting your money into something that says mutual fund and that it makes sense. Look at the track record of the mutual fund. And also, mutual funds are not free. They have a fund manager. So you have to pay a fee while you're inside of this mutual fund because that's who's managing the mutual fund. That's who moves around the actual assets so that you aren't losing money. They see an asset go down, they change the amount of shares inside of that mutual fund, but they have to get paid. So there are fees that come on mutual funds, and then some mutual funds have minimums. I remember when we started, I believe the minimum was like what 2,500 that you had to put in to actually buy into the mutual fund. Yeah,
Hmm.
they do have mutual funds that have a zero. Like you don't have to have a minimum, so those might be good to start with. But yeah, I think mutual funds are a great way to do some passive investing, especially if you don't have a IRA yet. Open up an IRA. You got $7,000 this year, 2025. You got $7,000 that you can put into your retirement account and potentially add to some mutual funds. So I think on top of that, they got ETFs as well,
Yep.
right? ETFs are very similar to mutual funds. They operate throughout the actual stock market day, though. I mean, I think that's like the main difference is that ETFs you can buy and sell while the stock market is open. Mutual funds you purchase, but the transaction doesn't happen until the stock market closes. You won't see the change until then. So, yep, I think that that is also a super amazing way to make some passive income.
Hmm.
Investing. I mean, we are investors playbook, so we definitely think that investing is a great way to get some passive income. The last one I got. Um, this is if you have some money in the bank that you can, use or some money that you can use to make money. This is literally you becoming a bank, right? Peer-to-peer lending. People need money. People need to borrow money, whether it's them starting a business, creating a project. A lot of people who are like home flippers, they need to borrow money so they can flip the home and can pay you back. But just like how you take out a personal loan from the bank, you can be the individual that is the bank and can lend the money to individuals, okay? And put interest on top of that. They call that peer-to-peer lending or a personal loan. A lot of different ways you can make personal loans happen. I I am no expert on peer-to-peer lending. I have a partner who is very well versed in peer-to-peer lending. So she tells me a lot about her ventures and her pitfalls and some of the things that she misstepped on and some of the valuable lessons that she learned. And one of the most important things that I always hear her say is make sure that you secure the loan or back it by something because people, I mean, people can default on payments. And just like people, you can default on a loan that you have to pay back, or you have a credit card that you haven't paid back. Someone can not pay you your money back. So you got to make sure that you are protecting the money you lend out by either having someone draft up a iron contract to make sure that the person can't just skate away and disappear. Um, that's going to be the biggest risk. is the people who you let borrow your money. You got to do your vetting. You can't just like let someone borrow your money and then they come up with all the excuses and you just SOL. That could be a very unfortunate situation, and nobody wants to be like the guy who has to make the call and like, all right, look, if you don't pay me my money by this, like, yeah, we don't want to do any of that. The goal is to have built relationships with people so that when you do borrow money or do lend money out, the expectation is that they pay you your money back with the interest, as promised. It should be a simple transaction, but everything isn't always so crystal clear and everything always isn't going to be so smooth. So the biggest risk with that is vetting the borrower. Make sure you vet your borrower. So yeah, that's going to be my last one is peer-to-peer lending. I think it can be very lucrative. There's just that risk that you have to take into account.
All right. I
Yeah.
got one more also.
Hmm.
So my last one, it's a pretty simple one. Don't expect to get rich from it or anything. But my last one, credit card rewards. So a lot
Mm,
of people think that credit cards are the devil, right? But I'm here to tell you that they can actually be, a little profitable. Like imagine getting 2% back on everything that you've bought, right? Think about
yeah.
how much you've spent in an entire year.
Hmm.
Okay, so 2% of that is probably something pretty significant, right?
Exactly.
Where people go wrong is that they buy things that they can't afford because of the fact that they can pay for it later. They're just like, oh, I'll just buy this on here and I'll pay it sometime later. So the thing about credit cards, they have extremely high interest rates, but you don't have to pay that interest rate unless you hold a balance through the statement date.
Yep.
So that's the most important part. Make sure that you pay these credit cards off well, I do mine every 2 weeks, but you can pay it off every month. And yeah, for everything that you would have bought anyway, you're paying for it with a credit card where it's allotting you these credit card points. It could either be through flight points, it could be cash back, it could be it could be a number of things. So yeah, this could be a really good way to just get some money back for things that you were going to buy anyway. Remember, we're not buying extra things because we have a credit card. We're paying for the same things we would have paid for if we had the cash.
Right. That's what I was going to add. Do not be a point chaser. Okay. The credit cards give you points because you had already intended on buying it anyway. But don't purchase things so that you can get points. Get points because you intend on purchasing things. Don't,
Mm.
yeah, don't do the opposite. So that's going to be you said it at the end, but that's what I just wanted to make sure people understand. Don't be a point chaser. It doesn't make sense. Mathematically, it doesn't make sense.
Does
So,
not.
yeah. All right. Cool. We just gave you all 8 passive slash semi-passive ways to make money in 2025. It is tough out there for everybody. So as always, you know that we have a Facebook group where we talk about more ways to make money, more ways to invest, more ways to, make your money work for you. Okay. We have a financial literacy book, which is a 6-step process to financial freedom. Great starter pack for anyone that's looking to get started on their financial journey. Um, Check us out on Instagram. Go through some of the videos we have on YouTube. I mean, there's so much free content on here for you guys. All right. This is just what we love to do. So if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're dropping a video every week. And on top of that, we are also just sprinkling in financial clips, financial videos, just different ways and different things that me and Cornell are learning and have learned on our journey. So make sure you tap into Investors Playbook. Go ahead, Cornell. You got anything else for him before we close out?
I just want to say we appreciate y'all. Make sure you share to someone that you think could benefit from our content. And yeah, apply,
Absolutely.
apply. Don't just listen. Apply this to your life, and that's all
Yeah,
I have to say.
that's it. All right, y'all. Catch y'all
All right,
next
so
week. Peace out.
peace.